I've never seen it. Anyways, welcome to the Broken Chatbox. We have begun the stream, and this time it's not broken until it is broken. We'll break it at some point because it's called the Broken Chatbox. It's broken. It's broken every single fucking time. Every time. Anyways, we're going to be playing some League of Legends. I forgot to start my timer, and so I'm doing that real quick. I did forget something. Every time.
As always. As always.
Got to mute my phone because I'm getting messages like wazoo today. Anyways, we have League of Legends in the background. We're going to be talking about the Clash in a minute. But first off, introduce yourselves, just in case.
Evan the Tank here. Ready to do another podcast. What is it, the second one?
Yep.
It's like the 7th one. No, wait, no. It's like the 14th one, but this is the revamped and quote-unquote enhanced version. So yeah, it's the second one. Yeah, the revival. Revival.
And I'm Spark, coming in for a second time. Hopefully for a third.
Hopefully you stay alive. Have to make sure to leave the voice chat so that you're not echoing.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen.
Alright, well, I guess we're going to be playing some League of Legends. We literally didn't have a game to play because I was actually at my day job and everything. So Spark, go ahead and start up the queue. But the first thing on the list, I guess we can just talk about League of Legends because they actually introduced a new Clash mode.
Yes, the Clash mode is pretty interesting. It replaces the old-fashioned queue, which was ranked flex 5v5.
Which wasn't that great, to be honest, and nobody played it.
It really wasn't that great, to be honest. But now this one's actually has more incentive because it opens up every Friday at a particular time, and you put your team together and you buy your ticket and you sit in the queue and you verse in a tournament bracket style until you win or you lose all the way at the end. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's got some interesting ideas because it's a ticket system, and basically Dota has had this forever, and so it's not unlike Dota's system. So if you ever played Dota's tournament mode, it's almost exactly like that, except it's not like $20 for a fucking ticket, which is ridiculous. I've always hated Valve's pricing on this one. I don't know how much. Oh well, I can't check now. God damn, that's so loud. Ow, my ears.
They do. It's like 900 essence, which is the in-game currency, and then it's like 220 riot points, which is like literally $2.
Actually, yes.
I don't want to play this champion.
Cool, I'll play him.
Oh goodness, I don't want to play.
Sorry, I'm trying to fix my audio levels at the moment because League of Legends was Omega loud, but I also have music playing, and I wanted it in the background, but I also need to turn this down so that everyone can hear me. Apologies. But yeah, so it's like $2 to get a ticket, which isn't too bad.
And then it's 900 essence as well.
Yeah, and so you can get them in game, and so we just got a skin boost.
Yes, I gave that all to you. We gotta be flashy. We gotta be flashy.
Ooh, I got Nightmare Trendemere.
Oh yeah, so if you've never heard of a Clash mode or a tournament mode, basically you spend tickets to go into this weekly roundabout. Evan talked about it a little bit ago, but it's basically just like the old bracket style of tournament that they used to have in like Unreal Tournament and things along those lines, which is hilarious. So like, you know, you have team versus team, and the cool thing about this is that it's sort of like semi-elimination, although they do have like wild card rounds and things. But this is just online with anybody, and you can set up any team that you want. So it can literally just be anybody. So you can like talk to your neighbor or something like that and get them to jump in a league with you. And you can actually make your own team. So you don't actually have to set up anything official, and it's all automatic. I mean, mostly automatic. And so if you want to sign up every week, you just, set it up, have your ticket, and then go in, which is really cool. So if you want to actually get into that tournament scene, you don't have to like go through and like build up a team or collect all this extra information about everyone or anything along those lines. You just go and do it, which is really, really interesting, I think.
And one of the cool things I do like about it is when you do win a tournament, even if you don't win, if you do win a match, not necessarily the tournament itself, they give you tickets as a reward, as well as they give you icons, like so you can use as your team emblems for your next tournament as well. Which is pretty cool because then they just give you more incentive to actually do more tournament-based stuff.
So if you win a round, do you have to use that ticket to go into the next round, or does it just keep you going?
It's the one. No. You use the one ticket, I believe, and then you just continue on until you win or until you lose.
Oh, so it sounds like they're milking the players to suck. I mean, that's how literally every tournament system works. That's how Dota's works as well. Although I haven't really kept up with Dota's. Have you guys kept up with Dota's, free mode tournaments at all?
I don't even play Dota. So
Spark?
I don't play Dota.
Well, this is a great discussion that we're having right now.
Yes.
I'm glad we were talking. Oh God. Okay. Well, I'm dead.
Nice Dota discussion.
Dota discussion was like 3 seconds. I haven't played Dota because I kind of fell out of favor of it. It's just a lot slower, and then I get myself killed in League instead. So, yeah, I don't know. Have you guys been playing League of Legends at all? Haven't you been playing any matches or?
I've been playing a few matches here and there, like only to really necessarily get the current event done.
Oh
There's
no!
an event going on.
I got snowballed.
It's yeah, the little quest line that they got going. It's just it's the MSI one still.
Oh, it's still going.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was over. I guess the tournaments are still going.
It's
they have the.
It's ending today actually.
Oh, okay. So if you're watching the archive, it's not still going. But the tournaments are still going. It's actually been interesting. I've actually watched a few of them. The pro play, because this is the more interesting of the tournaments they have, because this is when all the regions kind of get together and like actually go up against each other. So they have somebody representing from each region. And so it's really interesting to see the different play styles kind of mashed together. I mean, Korea still kicks ass every single time, but it's still really interesting. And I've actually loved watching the LPL team, aka the China team, go through, because their tournaments are not particularly great down there, but they have some really promising teams. And so it's really interesting to watch these teams go from, completely dominating the LPL into actual like tournament play and seeing what they're actually capable of in a real like match. It's really interesting. And so I feel like a lot of people have been saying that the tournament scene has been kind of dying because a lot of the like large players have left, but the reality is this game's 6 years old. People are going to leave the tournament scene because they grow out of it. And so we're getting a lot of new faces and stuff like that. There's still a few old faces here and there, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting to actually watch that. As for playing, I haven't really played. I played like 2 matches as Ezreal, and that was it. I've been busy. I don't really know anything about the updates that are coming up with League specifically, though. I know they're coming out with a new champion.
Yeah, Pike.
Yeah, but we talked about him last week,
the
so
assassin support.
Yeah, which will be interesting. So I'm excited to play him. So I'll probably play once he plays. But that's really about it. Have you guys been playing anything interesting at all?
At the moment,
same old. I don't think I've been playing.
Why do I have you guys on the fucking podcast? You guys play literally nothing interesting.
I play Fortnite.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's like your thing right now. You've just been nonstop Fortnite.
Save the world, Fortnite. It's amazing.
We
so
talked
much time.
We talked for like 20 minutes on that yesterday, or not yesterday, but last week. Sorry, I don't know why I said yesterday. So I don't really want to go on about that. But have they been doing any interesting updates on that?
They're adding another hero ability into the game because they just recently added one in before. So they're expanding they're just expanding the hero ability list.
So as somebody who doesn't play, it's not really all that interesting. Well, that was a fun discussion, guys. Thanks for bringing up interesting games. So I went back and played, because I actually played a game this week. Surprisingly, out of all the busy work that I've been doing lately, I was able to actually go through and play a game. So I actually played Neptunia, Cyber Dimension Neptunia, Four Goddesses Online, which is actually a single-player game. It's actually fairly old, but they recently had a Steam sale, and there's actually a news topic that I'll talk about a little bit later that's kind of related. But I was able to go ahead and like go back and play it for a little bit, and so I was actually having quite a bit of fun with that. People were complaining when it came out that it was actually really short, and I'm actually 16 hours in, and I still have content. And so I don't know what people qualify as short anymore, specifically. Because if you get 16 hours out of a game, I kind of consider that like a lot of like, I don't know, content. I would
consider that too a lot of content.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. So it's mostly a visual novel, though. If you've never played an Neptunia game, it's not an online game specifically. It does have a multiplayer mode, but it's garbage. It actually has a bunch of problems. What they did is they built it in Unreal Engine 4. It was Tamsoft and Compile Heart's first Unreal Engine 4 game that was a collaboration. And so it's not a particularly well-built game, because it's a spin-off game for the mainline franchise of Neptunia, which aren't particularly great to begin with. But it's actually pretty fun because it's an action RPG. And so you just go around, you kill monsters, you go into a map, and then you're able to run around and kill a bunch of monsters to go around, and that's basically it. And there's bosses that show up, and they're all basically the same. You just kind of hit them until they die. But at the same time, it's a little bit interesting to kind of play it because while it's not a fantastic game, it kind of reminds me of the old B-class games. And this game specifically is a Neptunia game, so if you like Neptunia games and you like the style of writing they have, which is very upbeat, but also very comical, and they like to make a lot of jokes about the game industry because the entire franchise is based off of the game industry. It's just a nice little game that's kind of half visual novel, half little action RPG. And it reminds me of the olden days to where we had a lot of B-class games, or AA games, as some people call them, to where...
And for people who don't know, what is a B-class game?
It's basically those games that were... I was going to describe it, by the way. Thanks for interrupting me.
Yeah, no problem.
There were those style of games to where they weren't quite AAA, but they were made by people that you would know if you followed them. And so it would be like, let's say, for example, like the Worms franchise or something like that. I feel like they're popular enough. They were more considered like a B-class game because not everybody knows about Team 17 or the Worm game specifically. And so you would know them if you actually played their games or if you had heard about their company, but they weren't like AAA companies. Like they weren't EA or they weren't Activision or they weren't Square Enix. They weren't all these big companies. They were these smaller companies, and they were making decent games, but they never quite hit that quality of the kind of AAA market would reach. Kingdom Come Deliverance is another interesting one to where they ended up using the term Eurojank, which was another kind of B-class style game that came from Europe, because for a long time in Europe, a lot of countries didn't have the funding to properly make a AAA game, and so they would introduce these B-class games that had a lot of lower funds, but they still made interesting games nonetheless, which was really, really fun. And so it's just, I realized, over the last few years, and yes, I took that, you ass.
Son of a bitch. I hate you.
And yeah, it reminds me of the olden days to where, they had these interesting ideas and they had these interesting games and they kind of just made them, because I noticed over the last few years where I've just kind of wanted to keep playing these other styles of games and just, instead of going through these large open worlds that are just kind of boring AAA stuff that have all these mere graphics I don't really care for, I've kind of found that I love going back to these other games. So it's one of the reasons why I've actually taken a huge liking to the Neptunia franchise, for example. It is very cutesy though, so if you're not into cutesy stuff, not your thing. Definitely not. But I enjoy it.
Cutesy. I love the what do they call it? The mentions they have for that. Like how one's an Xbox, PC, and everything.
Yeah, so if you've never played the Neptunia franchise, it is all based on the game industry. And so each of the main characters is based on either a game industry, like, leader, as in like Microsoft or Sony or whatever, or it's based off of a developer. And it's really, really interesting because if you're into the kind of gaming history or maybe even just the kind of Japanese culture as well, like they have a lot of anime references in there.
Yummy.
I love it because I'm super into the game industry, and they actually had a game based on like the 80s and 90s and the way that games developed. And so the third game in the series is actually all based on that, and I fucking loved it. It was amazing because it's nonstop references about it. It's very fun, like tongue-in-cheek. It breaks the fourth wall constantly, but it's not awkward because it's what the game's all about. And so it's just a fun game, to be honest. It's not a particularly great game. Like, Mega Dimension, the fourth one, is actually a good game. Specifically, it's actually my favorite JRPG of all time at the moment, right next to Tales of Berseria. But for the most part, their games aren't particularly great, but they like hit a niche audience. Yes! And they hit a niche audience. I got at least from all the way back line. That was great. These crows know how to seek people. But yeah, they're just good games that are just fun to play. Like I said, they're not high quality, and a lot of people love to hate on them, especially the anime community, because it is, one of those games to where it's definitely anime style, and so you look at it and they're like, oh, it's just trash because it's anime, because all anime is trash apparently these days. At least every person that I've talked to that's super into anime, except for Evan. Evan's the only one.
Everything anime.
I don't know, you've actually played a little bit of it because we played it on a stream or whatever for a little bit.
Yes, it was hilarious. I liked playing.
It's a hilarious game. I love it.
I would. The thing is I would have loved to play it from the beginning, but I don't think I would ever have the chance to play it from the start to finish.
Yeah, my sister loves it. My sister loves how she doesn't get any of the references, but she thinks it's super cute and super gorgeous, and so she loves to look at it and she loves to play it. And when she found out they could transform, she got super fucking excited. She's like, "Oh my god, they could transform! That's so cool!" And so
star power.
She freaking loves it. But like, yeah, it's just, they're enjoyable games. The problem with them is that they are 50% visual novel. And so if you're not into visual novels, they drag on for a really long time. And so for me, specifically, going back to Cyber Dimension Neptunia, it's a side game that's really meant for fans of Neptunia that were just trying to try things out and trying to get used to Unreal Engine 4, because rumor has it that they're going to be moving to it for their next game, which I'm actually really excited for. And they actually have a secondary developer that's working on Unreal Engine 4 as well. But it's also mostly visual novel, and it isn't a serious plot whatsoever. They have a semi-serious plot, but the entire concept of the game is that they're playing an MMO. So you're literally playing a game inside of a game, which is quite fantastic.
Oh, I love that idea.
And so they're very straightforward with it, but it's constantly these visual novel elements to where the characters are just talking to each other about how they're playing this MMO. And so they have a bunch of stories and stuff like that about character building, and they're like talking about these other MMOs that they play and sort of things like that. And so it's not really interesting to the general public, but if you're a Neptunia fan or like that style of writing, it's somewhat interesting because you get to learn more about the characters, and that's why anybody ever follows that franchise. Because if it's for quality, you're in the wrong franchise. So,
oh yes, you are.
So yeah, I don't know. I enjoy it. I just haven't finished it yet, and I'm 16 hours in. So there's at least 16 hours of content, which is good. But I was actually looking at finishing a review because the games went on sale, and so the PC overview that I did a while back, I am getting people with all the crows. But yeah, the people that have been checking that out have been wondering where my review is. So I've gotten like 3 messages and one person left a comment, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'll just end up finishing it. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. So if you're looking for a review of it, it'll be on my channel. Probably Wednesday. I don't know if I'll get it up tomorrow morning. We'll see though. Yeah, that's pretty much that. I mean, do you guys have any other interesting games to go on? Because I started developing my own game. Yeah. Well, not started, but I've been working on it.
So Call of Duty is in their new game, or releasing a new game mode of the Battle Royale, which is pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, they announced they're doing Battle Royale. I think, okay, so can I rant for a second about how Activision has completely ran out of every single idea in the book, because now they're scrapping their single player campaign. They're making their entire, like, system to where they have characters. Now they're heroes, and they have abilities, and they're ripping half of their abilities from Rainbow Six Siege. And so it's just like, god damn it. And now they announced they have a Battle Royale mode. I'm like, why can't you guys like come up with original ideas anymore? I know they have creative people working at freaking Treyarch. Let them build something great. And they're just, it is such a chaser game. But anyways, it's gonna do well because it's Call of Duty. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
Oh, that there wasn't anything too crazy with it. It was just, I did hear a little bit about it. Thought it was pretty interesting of all the different concepts that they're about to bring into it, because apparently they're having a big map, kind of like Battlefield.
Hey, killing people, end it.
But
this will be the first time that Call of Duty has had a large map since Call of Duty 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which is nice. They used to have a sniper map on. I think it was Call of Duty 2. It might have been 1. I haven't played Call of Duty since Call of Duty 4, World of War. I've played a little bit of the other ones every once in a while because somebody would have it and they're like, hey, play this. And I'm like, wow, this is shit. I'm just joking though, by the way. They're actually decent games. But going into that, I haven't really like actually sat down and played one since the 4th one. And I didn't like the 4th one. And since the series went in that direction, I kind of didn't stay with it.
Yeah, I fell off of it as well on that same part.
I tried to stay with Medal of Honor. That didn't go so well either.
Yeah.
I miss those style of shooters, though. I really do. I'm excited for Halo 6. Well, we talked about that last week.
Oh,
and there's nothing new about it, so it'll be nice to have a multiplayer shooter that I can go back into. I remember playing Blacklight for a while, though. That was fun, but I wasn't a fan of all the pay-to-win elements they tried implementing in the free-to-play system. So, yeah. Oh my god, I just destroyed people. Ouch.
Oh, the Darius destroyed
Hold on, I'm dying. Oh my goodness, I survived for so long.
He went Dunk
So
City
no
on
other
me.
games, no other games. You guys don't game. You guys
I
really
do game,
don't.
but I game priority on certain games.
Yeah, you focus on like one game.
I mean, one game that I've been particularly playing recently is Payday 2, but there isn't really too
Nothing
much
new about it.
interesting news about that.
Other than years ago, they had a controversy and they fixed it. Well, it's like a year ago now.
I mean,
You
they
remember
got a
that?
new map coming out. If you want me to look up the news article and talk about that update, I will.
Not particularly. It's not particularly interesting unless you're into Payday 2, really.
Yeah.
How many people are playing Payday 2 still? I imagine enough that they keep stuff going.
Oh yeah, it still has a decent player base.
I tried
don't
to
know.
get into it multiple times.
I don't know the numbers, but there's so many problems with the games. But good thing is that modders have fixed most of the problems.
You know, talking about B-class games, that's a very B-class game that's done well. Warframe's another one. Warframe's another B-class game that ended up doing really well, and now it's like AAA quality. Sorry, just going off on a tangent there.
Yeah, but no, that's definitely you're right about that. It was a pretty indie project. I mean, the first time that they made the game Payday the Heist, they had Sony as a publisher, but it was just overkill as an indie studio, and then they were picked up by Starbreeze.
Weren't they picked up after Payday 2 came out, or was that before?
It was during Payday the Heist they were acquired by Starbreeze, and then they released Payday 2.
But yeah, that was a very B-class game.
Gimme.
You're dead.
That's not getting you anything.
The budget for that game wasn't particularly high, and that's what I was talking about, though, with the whole B-class or Eurojank games. I really do miss them. The Witcher games are a good example of that, and then The Witcher 3 came out, and it's like one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't kill Brand. Regret.
You put that in your screen in front of someone will tell you that's a AAA game.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good.
I mean, it's had a lot of updates, so.
Oh yeah. And not to mention the graphics, it was phenomenal for its time. And they used NVIDIA Hairworks.
If we want to talk about graphics, Black Desert is the most beautiful thing ever.
Actually, Witcher kind of beats it.
Does it really?
Witcher 3 is gorgeous. Witcher 3 is the prettiest game you can get on PC. On console, it's not all that great, to be honest. They really had to tone it down for console, which is super unfortunate, and it runs at 30 FPS, which is
Console's like a
gross.
Console's like a 200 computer that you bought at Walmart.
And I love how they constantly patch that game too. I don't play Witcher myself, but I've heard really good things about it, and I've been like active in the update scene with it.
He's going for you.
Whenever there's like something that could be cheesed way too much, or they could farm, like with the cow farming,
I loved what they did with that.
Yeah, they introduced like this behemoth of an enemy, and it kills you if you farm
you can
cows
kill
too
it.
much.
You can fight it, but it's super powerful because farming cows isn't effective at higher levels, and so if you can kill it, it's no big deal. But yeah, people were basically going into farms and just killing cows and then respawning them and then killing more cows to farm up money because it's free money.
Money.
And haha, that's funny. But yeah, so this thing, they made it, so just an update after the game had been out for quite a while too. This was months after the game came out. It just runs up to you, it's like raw, and it just starts murdering you, and it's this really high leveled enemy. So it's super funny. They're a developer I really respect. They run GOG at the moment, so if you want to like support the company, go on there. It's actually DRM free as well, and so The Witcher 3 has become a perfect example for people that are all about, you know, anti-DRM, to where they're like, just make a good product and make it easy for them to buy, and people buy it. And so people bought it like crazy. It's one of the best-selling games ever made, so it's pretty freaking fantastic. I should reiterate, it's one of the best selling games on PC specifically. Also, we got wrecked in this ARAM.
Yeah, because of that. Darius had his eyes on my boobies, and he wouldn't let me go.
What is this now? Boom. I am going to give it to the Sivir.
Sivir did amazing.
Well, I do have a topic for today. I actually do, because there has been some news. And so I guess we'll start the topic and then go on to other news stuff. We didn't get to do this last week because there was like nothing going on. But basically, Steam had this random thing. So if you're into anime style of games, visual novels, or anything suggestive, this was actually interesting for a while. And the reason why playing Neptunia was Neptunia doesn't have anything to do with it, but it is one of those kind of anime games and it often gets targeted by these same types of groups. So basically, there was a group called like this morality group. I forgot what their actual name is, and I'm not going to give them the legitimacy of calling them by whatever they want to be called, because basically it was a bunch of Christian hicks that were getting together and saying that video games are evil and they shouldn't have sexual content. And they've been at it for years. They have been at it.
I believe that they are evil and they should have sexual content.
Go for it. There are plenty of games out there. We can talk about those in a second. But they've been at this for years. And I used to know somebody who personally supported them, and they were a moron. And so basically what they have done over the years is they have been targeting people that have been making these types of games, and they stopped targeting people specifically and they started targeting companies. And so they're taking credit for something that happened on Steam recently. Now, they've also kind of fallen out of favor against things like Microsoft and stuff like that because they've had their own policies that have kind of kept up with this. But Steam is the biggest storefront that's been like, hey, we're going to allow nudity and sexual content on our platform as long as it's not the focus of the game. So stuff like, I can't think of anything right now. Honey Pop. There we go. Honey Pop, for example, was a game that they're like, okay, we'll allow it as long as you don't include your sexual content stuff. And they're like, sure, whatever. And so they censored the game and they got it on Steam. Now, since then, there have been some modifications to their rules, and they've allowed other types of games that do have actual legitimate nudity in it, mostly visual novels, and so it is inside the niche stuff, but stuff like The Witcher 3, for example.
On that same note, like Conan the Barbarian, or not Conan the Barbarian, there's a new Conan.
Yeah, the Conan game. Rust, for example. They've allowed nudity on their storefront, and they've also allowed a lot of other types of questionable stuff, such as homicides and things along those lines. And so Valve has actually been pretty straightforward to this. However, recently, there was a random email that kind of came out from Valve's automated systems that was telling certain developers that their games violated their terms of service and needed to have their sexual content removed in order to be going back onto the storefront. Now, this has actually been updated today. It happened earlier today to where Valve's like, hey, that wasn't supposed to be sent out. That was an error. It was a bug. But it actually brings up an interesting discussion because Valve has these automated systems that are based on player reports. And they actually are not saying that they're allowing it, they are saying they're going to re-review the games. And so the reason why this is actually an interesting discussion is because it only happened to a handful of visual novels, low-key developers, and anime-style games. And it had games, every single one of those had some style of gay or homosexual types of content. And it was actually No, it's not bad, but the reason why that's an interesting point is because these are the types of games that have been targeted by these certain groups, such as this morality group that's trying to take credit for this. I'm going to re-roll. Apparently I'm playing Pantheon.
Oh, that's terrible.
And so it brings up a weird discussion to where, for one, it's brought up that sexuality content inside games again, which we've actually had a sort of concrete discussion on this in the past on my channel and stuff like that. So if you're interested in that discussion, I'll have another video coming up as well. But for the actual general game industry, a lot of people are kind of bringing it back up, but we've already had this sort of standard to where people just don't care. Like, we don't care. If you want to make a sexual game, go for it. There are huge industries within that make a ton of money, and there's a ton of suggestive games as well, such as the Senran Kagura series, which, Evan, I know you've played one of them.
I love it.
They're incredibly fun games, but they are definitely suggestive, and we've been okay with that for years, and we've allowed them on all of our platforms. However, now it's bringing up a situation to where a hate group essentially, goes in and targets these specific games, reports them, and gets other people to report them and says, hey, this game's evil. You don't use Steam, but go onto Steam and report this game or whatever, because this is the type of stuff they do on Twitter. And so they do this, and it gets these games reviewed, and it puts all of these developers in jeopardy after they've been told that their game's okay to be on the platform, which is scary. Like Honey Pop, for example, they censored themselves, and yet they were still targeted by these groups, and they still have to be re-reviewed by Valve to see if they're allowed on the platform, even after the games have been on the platform for years. So, yeah, it's a bit scary. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, I guess I should ask?
Well, I would say that targeting of games has been around ever since games have existed, like with games like Mortal Kombat and Postal and all that. I'd say that this is nothing new, but it is definitely dangerous to developers just trying to make a game and just, trying to make a living off of their game, indie devs, and they're going to have a lot of problems with these kind of groups if they have these style of games. So I would say that they would have to watch out for that. And
on that same note, the media has still been blaming video games for all the terrible events that's been happening lately.
And that brings it into another point to where I don't know if this is ever going to get resolved? Question mark? Because, or at least not soon. Because video games have also been getting blamed for violence again. It's become another discussion. Even though we had this discussion back when I was a kid, back in the 90s. I'm a kid that grew up on Mortal Kombat and stuff. And I'm not going around ripping out people's spines, but they don't care. And we've actually had tons of studies that show that if any type of violent media actually causes violence, it's not because the content itself is violent. In fact, they've actually said that it probably makes people less violent because they see what violence can do, which is terrifying. But it actually makes, it obvious that they have mental issues if it does make them violent, because they are, obviously enhanced or reinforced because they're already violent to begin with. And those are what the studies have been saying. But this actually goes into the sexual kind of content sort of side, because violence makes sense because you're hurting someone. Looking at tits doesn't hurt someone.
I don't know.
So it's weird to me how violence has been made this sort of normal thing, to where every video game, we're playing a violent video game in the background. Every game that comes out these days pretty much has some sort of violence in it. And it's basically how nature is, quite frankly. It's how nature works. And so we've kind of been okay with that. And every single type of media has it. And if you want to look at TV and movies, like, there is some obscenely horrible stuff that I've seen on movies and TV and stuff like that. Like, they go all out and they never get attacked for it because it's not video games.
Because it's not a video game.
But when it comes down to sexual content, movies and TV have it as well, but video games aren't allowed to have it yet. And I'm curious as to why, and why these hate groups are targeting video games specifically, which is very, very strange, because there are, talking about games that do have sexual content, there are games specifically about sexual content that are doing perfectly fine, and they're hugely successful. And I don't see a problem with it. If people want that, then they should go for it. And I don't see a problem with that. And maybe I'm biased because I have worked on adult content in the past and still am today, but again, it doesn't make any sense to me specifically from a logical standpoint, because if we're okay with everything else, why are we okay with this specifically?
Exactly. I am on the same page.
I do think, however, to bring a counterpoint to this, there is some lack of moderation, wow, I don't know why I struggled to say that, on Valve's part. On Steam specifically, because Valve has an age rating system. However, it shows up for literally every single game. I look up Black Desert, it brings up an age rating, which means that it's basically completely useless, because I would let a teenager play Black Desert. I really wouldn't care, but I probably wouldn't have a teenager playing something like one of these sexually explicit games that are being targeted. I forgot the name of all of them, I apologize. But yeah, one of these visual novels that's, it's targeted to adults and it is made for adults. I wouldn't have a teenager playing that, but the age rating system doesn't really gate things that way. And so I think what we need to have on Steam to actually kind of help combat this is probably something that would probably tell you whether this content is available to certain masses, and then make that content have different age restrictions, or maybe have warnings on it or something along those lines.
They already have so many age restrictions. People putting in the wrong gear for their age is the problem.
Well, that is a problem. However, if I go on Steam, because I have all the filters off. I don't really care if it shows me explicit content because I'm an adult. But after I turn that on, there was no way until I go onto a Steam page or see the game specifically that it has sexual content sometimes. Not always. There are games that do get tagged with it. So if it gets tagged enough by users that it has sexual content, or the developer puts it on their game specifically, then it will have, like, let's say on the store page, it will have over their screenshots, it says, sexually explicit content available or whatever. And then you have to click on it to actually see it if you want to. But aside from that, if you're actually just going through Steam or recommendations, for example, I got recommended one game that had nudity on the store page, which was not something that's supposed to be allowed, by the way. So they probably had to update their screenshots, and it wasn't a good game either. But again, there's nothing telling me specifically when I go into those titles of content after I have gone past the age rating system and past the sort of basic sort of warnings of anything warning me of that style of content. Which is just a personal thing. I mean, obviously they're trying to make it work, but it requires user tags or the developer to be honest about it, which most developers are honest about it, and the ones that aren't are probably just scummy douchebags that we probably shouldn't care about. That's really all I have on the
damn,
topic.
I was about ready to steal that help.
Boom, I got a kill. I just pressed all the buttons.
As Soraka, you shouldn't even be that far up in the lines.
Not really. I'm up here poking them, and
I've been playing a
don't even do
mean
anything.
attack Soraka. I've gotten 1 kill so far.
Oh my god, I have a kill. I just got a kill stolen from me, though.
I'm pretty sure I play a way meaner Soraka, just saying.
Well, of course, you have more experience than me.
I'm better than you. Yeah, well, you're wiser. I'm going to compliment you in a backhanded way.
Backhanded wisecrack.
You're an intelligent person.
Oh, thank you. I thank you for noticing.
It's a fun thing to do. Any other news that's been going on? I looked up news while I was on my way home, and I forgot it all by now.
Anything. Oh.
No, I found some things. We talked about Black Ops. That was one thing. I did my rant.
I believe there's something else you want to talk a little bit about.
I could, but I don't want to go into it yet. I'm trying to think of
Okay.
other news topic. Hold on. I'm alt-tabbing. Shut up. This is my life.
This is your life.
This is my life.
The
Look up
life
news articles.
of
I've been trying to find stuff to do videos on, and they finally got a topic, and so it'll be out tomorrow. That was it. Leisure Suit Larry might come back. Hold on, I'm doing stuff. The people in game don't know that. Jetpacks are coming to Fortnite. We could have talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
A lot of people
jetpacks are coming to
have
Fortnite?
mixed feelings about it. They're not sure whether it's going to be good or not.
Well, it's going to be
but,
like
I mean,
a limited
it's
time
epic.
game mode.
It's epic, so I'm pretty sure they'll handle it really well.
Yeah, I think so. We normally don't talk about too many updates in the news. I don't know. Are you excited for it?
The jetpack? I
Yeah.
think it's going to add in a really interesting concept.
I think it's an
Because they
interesting
also
idea.
they also have the current concept they got at the moment is these because Fortnite's got the Marvel,
Oh my god, he exploded.
mashup going on for that, but they have on that same note they have these little crystals all around the place where you consume them, and they gives you like increased movement speed and jumping power, so you're able to like leap in buildings and stuff. Like it's kind of crazy. So I can only assume it would be like the same kind of concept, but with a jetpack, and it's probably like a certain amount of use.
Sounds interesting to me. I think it'll be fun. I think it's a limited time mode or whatever. So I don't know if it's staying. But it's interesting.
What, the jetpack or the
jetpack.
Yeah. So we'll see. No one knows anything too much about it. They just recently posted on the client itself saying that, hey, jetpacks will be coming out soon. Be prepared for it.
I really do wish I liked that game more. Like straight up, because like I've tried to enjoy the game's battle royale. I'm not buying into the early access of the PvE mode yet. I mentioned why last week's podcast, so if you're interested, watch that. But I wish I liked it more because that game is getting so many interesting updates. I just don't like the battle royale mode. I just don't.
And honestly, in the beginning, I didn't really like it. But I have been playing it a little bit more and more. And the more I play it with friends, the more it's fun. I still don't play it solo. That's the one thing I just still don't do. I personally find it boring solo, but it is fun playing with like a squad of 4 or a duo.
I could see that. The problem is, for one, I don't have that very often. And number two, I don't have a lot of time to play games. So when I'm playing games, it's very specific games.
Oh, very.
And I feel like
and it's perfectly understandable.
playing Battle Royale to me is like just wasting my time when I could be playing something like Neptunia, for example, that I know I'm going to enjoy that. There is no, I have to sit around and like see if this match is going to be good or
The best
not.
part about Battle Royale is like, it's a quick match, Like, it's a time killer. That's really just what it is.
Yeah, which isn't what I'm looking for, to be honest.
Which
So
is
maybe that's it.
the main reason I like playing Save the World. It isn't a time killer, it's a grind.
I mean, the game I am making, though, at the moment is going to be kind of a grind, to be honest.
Oh.
which is interesting.
Tell us more
And I'm
about
bringing
that.
that up in the most segue ever, way ever, and screwing up everything about it. Yeah.
I'd like to hear more. Tell me.
So I'm going to be putting up a blog post with all the details tomorrow about the entire project. But this is a project, I've been working in game development for a while now. I've had multiple teams and everything's just kind of gone to hell. So this one God dang it, I died. I'm sticking to being solo on this project unless anybody wants to help me out. But it is mostly a solo project, and so it is a very small game. But the idea of this, and I started it back last month, and so development is actually in full swing. It is a game to where it's a kind of like an idle RPG sort of thing, kind of combined with some more active elements. So it's like a turn-based kind of game to where instead of playing as the main protagonist, you play as a companion fairy. And so instead of being like the main hero to where you're running up and attacking, you're playing the fairy. And so you can suggest attacks just like a classic turn-based battle system would. And so you can play it like your Final Fantasies and such, which is what it's heavily inspired by, to be honest. And then you can actually go in, but you are also the fairy. And so you're applying buffs, you're picking up loot, doing fairy things. And there's also this management element in the game to where in the beginning of the game you get this tavern, and the tavern is where you manage all your upgrades, you get different gear, etc., etc.
No, Tryndamere.
And so it's actually turning out really, really well. And so I've nailed down some art style stuff yesterday, and so I'm working on some more concept art and working on 3D modeling this week. And so if you're interested, I am working on making a playable alpha within the next month or two, which is going to be really exciting. And that's what I've been literally doing every single day of my life at the moment. So
expand on more of what you're going to be doing in the game.
So in the game,
what exactly are you going to be doing besides, managing your inventory?
Well, aside from that, you're going to be playing a fairy specifically. So we actually nailed down, or I specifically, I'm used to saying we, 'cause I'm used to working with teams. I nailed down last month or last week, last day, yesterday, whatever. Last week, this AI system, sorry, it was a combat section and I got really into it. For some reason, I wanted to live.
Yeah.
But I nailed down an AI system to where I've worked with Unreal Engine for the last year or whatever, but I haven't really dived into a game like this before, and so I'm learning a lot of new things and a lot of different stat systems and stuff, and I've actually gotten better at using the engine overall. And they've had a lot of really cool updates. There's a lot of new things in UMG that I'm able to do, which is completely irrelevant to
Unreal Engine?
Yeah, Unreal Engine 4 is the engine that I'm working in. And so I've learned an AI system to where we're able to do some like pathing and stuff like that. So there's actually some new mechanics that I'm still working on actually designing and seeing what we're going to end up doing with it. So I don't know exactly what you're going to do, but the baseline mechanic is that you have this tavern that you're managing, and so you're kind of running in the tavern. And this is all based on my Crystal Grimoire lore, which I'll release more on in the future as time goes on. But you're in this world covered by miasma, and this miasma is making everyone immortal, but it also makes it so that if they're exposed to it for too long, they go insane. And so you need to stay near these crystals called heart crystals, which is why it's called Heart of Eternity. I forgot to name the game. It's called...
Can your characters actually go insane?
Yes, talk about that in a second. The game is actually called Crystal Grimoire Heart of Eternity. But... yeah, so basically the idea is that you have this tavern which has one of these crystals, but then you end up going out with these smaller crystals, and your kind of goal and everything in the game is to go out, get resources, and there's kind of a mainline story about these heart crystals and kind of figuring out what's going on specifically with these characters, learning more about them, etc., etc. And so you have this tavern that is sort of the safe haven, and then you go out on adventures, which is where this sort of combat section comes in. So while you're in the tavern, you're managing stuff like your equipment, your resources, you're managing, who's doing what. So there's a bunch of different jobs in the game, so you'll send them out, and this is the idle kind of style gameplay that I was talking about. And so they'll be like, oh, hey, I need this person to like clean tables or something because it is a tavern. And so you're going to have a bar. And so it's like, oh, go clean tables or something. There's more useful stuff like, going and like, restocking food or making shipments, et cetera, et cetera. But then you also have the combat section. So you'll pick a fairy and a hunter, which is basically, a fairy and a hero. And so then you'll end up going out into a sort of 2D side-scrolling section. And so you'll have your main hero who will be automatically fighting based on the character's personality, as there are various different characters I'll release more information on later, to where they actually just kind of automatically go through this sort of side-scrolling dungeon section. And so they'll automatically fight monsters as they end up appearing, and they'll have different personalities for whether they'll run away or end up engaging or wait for you and stuff like that. But while you're doing that, you're playing as the fairy, and so you'll be navigating as the fairy, going around picking up items, investigating the area, finding resource points, etc., and doing those sorts of things while you're also kind of taking action inside of this turn-based battle system that has a bunch of in-depth stats and different types of equipment, etc., etc. So it's an interesting product so far, and the entire concept is kind of a...
That's kind of cool.
Sort of, yeah. So you're able to suggest attacks. However, its AI specifically is controlled by the character you're playing. So, for example, the first character you unlock is Eliza, who is very straightforward, gun-ho, very about conserving a lot of her resources, and so she won't automatically use her spells and skills automatically. I don't know why this ended up happening. Okay, my music player just bugged out. Apologies for that. So she won't automatically use her skills automatically without you telling her to very often. So she'll wait until she has a lot of resources, but other characters might end up using more resources. They might be like, oh, I need to use all these abilities as much as possible because that's their playstyle, etc., etc. So you won't directly control the character, but you will be able to kind of influence the combat, etc., etc. So like I said, it's more like suggesting attacks, and they can ignore you if they want to, which is a thing.
Now,
I'm not sure how that'll
what
work
device
yet.
will this be on?
So this will be on PC specifically. That's what I'm aiming, and that's all I'm aiming for right now. I have had some suggestions to try and make it go for mobile, but I don't think that's possible, so it won't happen.
Okay. So in the little management, what are you going to be doing when as the hero is fighting in
I feel
front of you?
terrible just talking about this nonstop, but we literally have no other topics, do we?
So besides suggesting skills and everything and looting, what else will the fairy be doing in combat?
So you actually have attacks as a fairy, and so you have spells. So currently, I'm thinking on how to actually implement this perfectly. Because like I said, this is still very early in development. I just started it last month. Like that's when the concept was actually, you know, like, oh, hey, I'm going to go for this. And so like the game itself doesn't have all the gameplay elements kind of figured out yet. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how the fairy combat will work. But you will have skills. And so, for example, the current system that I have built into the prototype, or had built into the prototype, was that you would have a lock-on function. So while you're moving around as the fairy, you are picking up items and investigating, but then you would be able to toggle into combat mode to where you would act just like a normal character. And so you would have, you know, your turn-based battle system to where it has all your skills and spells, so you can end up using those as you please. So let's say you had, for example, one of the first fairies you get has a power spell or whatever that's just like a little magic shot, and so you end up using it. It just shoots off a little magic shot, and that's about it. And so the fairy isn't all about combat, it's more about doing all these other stuffs. They're mostly supportive, and so you'll end up, you know, wanting to watch your character's timings. And so there is a timer system in the game, so it plays off automatically. It's not 100% turn-based, it just keeps going. Like I said, combat's automatic. And so you'll be watching your character's wait timers and stuff like that, and applying buffs instead of using main screen like kind of attacks and stuff. So you'll be like, oh, hey, my character's about to use a really powerful ability. I kind of don't want Quinn again, but screw it. I'll go for Quinn again. But yeah, so you'll be focusing on using buffs, or there's one characters that'll like reduce the wait timers, or ones that are like debuffing the enemy and stuff. So that's mostly what the fairy is, like a support character, for example. Which I can't think of very many single-player games to where...
What's
you play as a support character.
Like the end game objective besides managing and like, you know, the tavern?
That has story relations that I don't want to spoil, because the game starts off to where you just have these characters inside a tavern, and they're just trying to like, you know, get by inside this world that is basically ending. And so that's the entire idea. The entire intro to the game is about the world is coming to an end. So that's the entire concept of the storyline. And what they end up wanting to do in that time is kind of dependent on the story. And so I don't really necessarily want to talk about it because I can't without spoiling things.
That's understandable.
Yeah, but it has to do with like the lore and things like that. Like I talked about, you know, it has the crystals and things like that. So that is a large portion of the game, to where I am kind of introducing a lot of visual novel elements. The gameplay is going to be mostly what it is because I just don't have the time to write a bunch of shit. But you know, it will have a bunch of stuff
style
about that.
Of game, or will it be like a casual, you know, play here and there kind of style game?
I don't know how I'm going to set that up yet.
But your title card isn't fixed, Michael.
My title card?
Yeah, it says dev stream.
Does it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
whatever.
updated.
I clicked update. It says updated at the top.
It updated.
I just clicked it again. Regardless, who cares? What you were saying, I forgot. I got distracted.
Who, me? I was just asking about whether the game was going to be a casual or a
yeah.
grindy.
I don't know how that's going to work yet. I haven't decided yet. because I could go either way. I want to implement difficulty systems, but I don't have a framework for it yet. But I want it to be so that you can either play it, very actively, or you could play it like an idle game if you turn down the difficulty or whatever. You do have huge costs when you end up failing. You do have a chance to go insane when you end up failing a dungeon. If you don't get out in time, you could die, basically.
Could you still play the character while they're insane?
Yes. So that is one of the concepts that we have going for it. I won't talk more about it because it goes to the story bit. But
of course.
The entire concept of the Heart games, because I was working on another project, and this is kind of acting as a prologue to that game. And so the entire idea and the reason why I'm developing this game, to kind of talk about it for a second, I guess, is that this is a prologue to that other game. And it's meant to kind of hopefully do well and hopefully help me fund that game and make it so I can actually, get people working on it and make it possible, because the people I was working with just ended up not sticking with the project. And so it's kind of been in development hell, I guess you could say, for the last few months. And so it's not really going anywhere. I do have assets from it that I am using in this game, and I will be using assets that I use in this game in that game specifically as well. So it's kind of a twofer there. This is just like a smaller game. It won't be expensive. I'm planning to make it only $5 or $10 when it ends up releasing. So if you're looking for a smaller game, this is definitely going to be one of those.
I think I might actually pick that one up.
I'm going to force you to pick it up.
Of course you are.
If you don't pick it up, I'd send it to you and be like, play this, goddammit, I need feedback.
Play the game right now. I need stuff.
But yeah, if it sounds interesting, make sure to follow me on Twitter or end up joining in the Broken Chatbox. I have a dev channel on there. And so when I actually get that playable alpha out, I will be desperately looking for people to try it out and looking for constant feedback. Right now, it's still early days. It's only very basic prototype style stuff. I have some of the more kind of advanced frameworks working on, and I am doing dev streams. Spark was saying that my title wasn't fixed. I've been doing dev streams, or I did one. I've been trying to do more of them. I just haven't been around to actually doing them. But yeah, so if you're interested in development, I'm being 100% transparent with everything that's going on and what I'm working on. So if anybody's ever interested, it's available. That's it. And I noticed you guys are like bitching on me in chat.
What are you talking about?
I can see it. I've seen it this entire time.
Perfectly involved with everything you've been saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's really it. We don't have anything else to talk about. I've run out. News is short. I haven't played any games because I've been working on a game, and I just talked about it for 20 minutes. Ouch. Do you guys have any topics to talk about? I mean, we're not even an hour long.
Particularly, no.
Like, just because there's nothing going on, and all the games I've been playing are ones that are currently out and doing their own thing.
And then we already talked about last week, because you only play like 2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't E3 soon or something? Or PAX? One of the two?
E3 is coming up. I don't know when, though. I don't specifically know when. I've fallen out of favor of E3. They've done way too much showboating in that for me to really care. There's been some interesting announcements every once in a while, but like those announcements I can't really follow for too long, because it's like, we're going to be making this game. Here's a cinematic trailer. And it's like, cool. It'll be out in 2020. And you're like, all right, cool.
All right, cool.
This is a game we're developing.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's cool. It's exciting to see stuff, but like, let's look at Anthem, for example. That was announced 2 E3s ago. Where is it? It's going to be at E3. We know that. That's all we know. We know it's going to have loot boxes. Woo! Which means I don't want the game. I lost all my excitement. They're going to screw up that game so hardcore, and it looks good.
It looks so good.
I like the world they're building. We've barely seen any actual gameplay. We've been seeing all of their, pre-scripted stuff, because that's what all these big publishers do these days, which is really, really unfortunate. It's one of the reasons why I still like Sega, for example. They don't do all that. They mostly end up just releasing raw footage, which doesn't look as good, but it's representative of what the game actually is, which is nice for once.
I actually did hear something. PSO2 is actually releasing level 85.
Oh my god, finally?
Yes.
Supposedly the game's cap was going to be 100, and so the closer it gets, the closer that game is to dead, which is really scary for some people.
I know.
God, I have not kept up with that game. Yeah, apparently it's going strong. It's still getting brand deals and everything. It's huge in Japan. I mean, it's not not nearly as big as it used to be, but it's still really, really big. It is Sega's moneymaker. That game has gachas galore as well.
Whew.
They've introduced more free gotchas.
A lot of money
and
in
stuff,
that game.
I have not spent a dime in that game, any money whatsoever.
I enjoyed putting a money in that game.
Putting a single monies.
A single money.
Single monies.
Single corn chip.
I didn't spend any money on that game because you had to go through so many loopholes to get through it. Because we played the Japanese version of the game.
Yep. You had to turn around, get PayPal, and then turn around and convert it to yen.
And then you had to go through a third-party service.
Yep. That was terrible.
Such a roundabout way. I wish Sega would have just released that globally. It would have been so nice. I mean, supposedly...
Honestly, they should have at the time, but...
Now it's too late. I mean, they still could.
Yeah.
Soulworker came out and apparently is doing okay. Although, if you go into their in-game, it's just nothing but racist chat. It is god-awful. Like, literally, I tried doing a video on that game twice, and as soon as I went into the game, there was just people screaming really terrible stuff in chat, and I'm like, what is this game? But apparently it's doing alright financially, so...
Well, that's always good.
You can release a game 6 years after its initial launch and do perfectly fine. You just have to moderate your chat. So... Yeah, I just haven't kept up with that game, though. I don't have any knowledge about that game whatsoever. All my knowledge on that game is just really old stuff. So, yeah, every time I go back into it, because I do keep it updated, every time I go back onto it, I go into the forest area, which I already forgot the name of, Nibirius, I think?
Yes, there you go. That's it.
And I basically just kill 50 monsters, turn in a client order, and then log off. That is my experience with that game these days, which is unfortunate. Black Desert's taken over my MMO slot, which I haven't been playing this week, but Lawn releases like in 2 days, which I'm excited for, so I'll be playing.
Which is the new class. And
Yeah.
it's, what do they do? Dance in the air?
Essentially. They are a Chinese-inspired fighter or whatever. I don't know the specifics for it, so sorry if I'm culturally offensive or something. But yeah, it looks interesting. It looks fun. It looks like another almost assassin mobility class, which they have plenty of, but it still looks fun. So I'll be streaming that when they end up releasing that eventually. So I actually have the 23rd off, so I'll be hopefully streaming that for a while. So I'm excited to play that, but I don't really have much to say about it other than I'm excited for it. They have the character creator out, and so if you want to pre-create your lawn, you can. So if you want to go out there and be like, oh, hey. Yeah, that's it.
So apparently somebody wants us to have a
Topic
discussion
about movies and not games, just a suggestion, no hate. I mean, I don't watch movies. So
Well, I did just recently watch Black Panther and the Infinity Wars.
Oh, talk about those, because those are popular. That'll bring in the viewership and subscribers.
That'll make the viewers explode.
Well,
At 57 minutes, we
keep it
talk about...
spoiler-free. I still have yet to see Infinity War.
Infinity War turned out pretty well, in my opinion. It ended the best. It ended really well. I'm not a huge Marvel fan though, so more on the DC side of stuff. But
yeah, the only problem with DC is that a lot of their movies are trashed here.
it's only because the developers that are taking the movies are doing terrible jobs with it.
Yeah.
But
like you would see, like they have really, really high budgets, but like they just don't know what to do with the movies.
nah,
They just
right
can't get
now
the
it's
right
all about
producers.
Stan Lee. It's all about the Stan Lee and the Marvel.
Yeah.
And even
I
he
should actually do something about this. Hold up.
um
And I'm just gonna die immediately. Fantastic.
Welcome to League of Legends.
welcome to the League of Draven.
League of Draven.
That's literally one of his lines.
That's one that is one of his lines.
Welcome to the League of Draven.
There is a movie I'm quite excited for that's coming out here in June. It is Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom, and I am a huge Jurassic Park World fan. That was the first movie I ever saw as a child in the theaters.
Jurassic Park.
Was Jurassic Park the first one? Gave me nightmares. I loved it.
It was actually my first one too, but it didn't give me nightmares. I just got really into dinosaurs for the next 10 years of my life.
Well, I mean, I was, like I said, I watched it in theaters. It was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, so I was just like super young, and it just gave me terrible nightmares. And that's probably one of the reasons I liked it.
It's because it was different. I remember liking zombie games because my mother said they were bad for me and they give me nightmares.
Yummy.
They were worth it.
Oh god.
Like the original Resident Evil. Oh my god.
Save.
You remember the original Resident Evil and how awful it looks? Yeah, my mother's like, this is too realistic. It's gonna give him nightmares. And I'm sitting there like, it's fucking squares. Hold on. I fucked that up. Oh,
yeah,
bird!
Oh, and also the new Deadpool 2.
I watched that. That
that's
one was
coming out.
good.
Oh, it is out currently.
Yes, it came out the 17th.
I heard pretty good things about it.
It was a pretty good movie.
Of course, you know, it's Ryan Reynolds. He's amazing. What a
I
man.
have no idea who that is. Who is that?
Ryan Reynolds is an actor. He's played all the other Deadpools, and he plays actually a lot of good... Oh, MG. I'm gonna die. Oh. Still gonna die.
Nope.
Apparently not today.
No, I'm stunned.
Oh,
As
Ryan
you guys
Reynolds
are having
is a really
fun, I'm
good
just in the
actor.
shop like, I'm gonna make the stream really interesting, guys. I'm just sitting there like, should I buy a static shiv? I should buy a static shiv. That's an item I want to buy. Well, last game I was playing Quid and I bought, or went towards an Essence Reaver, and I'm like, maybe that was a bad idea.
Next time you do play Quinn in ARAM, you should probably try out the lethality build. That's what most people
I just have no idea how to build it. I don't play Quinn.
Yeah,
Tencent acquired Path of Exile Studio.
Ooh.
Tencent is buying more and more companies. They own 90% of the stock in freaking League of Legends. Not really, but they own quite a bit of it. Yeah, Tencent.
Yeah, I've heard about them. They're like a mega conglomerate company in China, right?
Yep, and they're owning a lot of game companies that aren't being picked up by AAA publishers. And so a lot of indies. Warframe, League of Legends, Starbreeze was almost bought by Tencent. So like a lot of companies.
I haven't played it in a long time.
They're still updating it, by the way. They're doing a UI update right now. Anyways, yeah, Tencent's this big company that's just buying in stocks in a lot of these companies and buying out a lot of indies. So if it's a publicly traded company, Tencent's targeting them. They make a lot of money, basically. The scary part about Tencent, though, because they own PUBG as well. They own Bluehole. Is that they change games for the Chinese market and like completely destroy them. And so Chinese gamers have a very mixed feeling about Tencent because while it makes it legal to play games in their region, they also kind of ruin them and make them have a bunch of microtransactions and add pay-to-win elements, etc., etc. So that's not particularly great. But other than that...
I wouldn't be crazy about Tencent either.
Other than that, it's, just a thing. It's just what they do. They buy companies. That's really all that news has to offer. I just noticed it was on my news list.
Companies.
Yummy companies taste good. They taste like money.
Money.
I'm just going in and dying.
Yeah, a lot of people are. So don't feel bad.
I don't play Quinn. I shouldn't have played Quinn the second time.
This Trendemir.
The Trendemir feeding. He's got 9 deaths. Ugh. It's a scrub. I only have 10.
Right. Blame the jungler. Where is he at?
I wanted to try going an hour and a half today, but like, man. Well, last week we went on for an hour. I don't know. Maybe it felt right. Maybe we should just end the podcast. I don't really have anything to talk about. I was going to look up some tech news. I haven't really been keeping up with tech news lately, so maybe there's something interesting. Sorry the frame rate dies every time I go to my freaking web browser.
Oh, NVIDIA Insider, or whatever the heck that was. You could talk about that.
I don't know anything about it. What's going on? Talk.
So pretty much what went on, my words aren't exactly,
I just got denied.
what's the word, accurate for it, but pretty much what went on is that NVIDIA wanted to partner with companies and make it so that certain brands, like with Asus, they have their Strix brand, they wanted to make that NVIDIA only and all that. And,
that's not new news. That happened a while ago.
That was, well, yeah, it's not recent, but it's still within this month.
So, yeah, it was never a thing. However, it was proposed. And so the proposition made a lot of people questioning what was going on. And so it was basically anti-competition is what people were saying, which it is. It's quite literally the entire thing. But I don't really see a problem with it as long as it stuck to specific brands, as long as they had competing brands with the other one. I mean, that's mostly on the manufacturer, but again, it is kind of anti-competition and didn't really make a lot of sense. I would love it if a certain brand was like, oh, hey, Strix is only NVIDIA cards. That way, if I'm looking for a NVIDIA card, I just have to look at Strix. I don't have to worry about all the spec sheets because people don't pay attention to the spec sheets. So, like, let's say if they're in production and they need a NVIDIA card, which does happen, or they need an AMD card, which does happen.
Oh my god, I can't believe you got MVP. I would love it if we could win a game of ARAM, though.
I know, right? We'll end the stream right before we win.
You're party owner now.
Losing.
Yay, fine match. We are just losing like crazy. I'm not 100% playing well today. I'm also not in a gaming mood either, so apologies for that.
I mean, that makes sense.
But yeah, I would actually love it if they actually made it so that one brand was just one version of CPU or GPU, whatever. Because it would make it easier for me specifically and people that are in my position. But for a general consumer, I do understand that manufacturers have specific brands that they built up as both of them for a very long time. And so getting consumers on that wouldn't necessarily be easy. So I understand why it's kind of an issue. Aside from that, it's been a problem for a while now that's been brought up multiple times. And NVIDIA just said, like, hey, we're not actually doing it. It was just a proposition and we're not going to follow through with it. So, yeah. And that happened like 2 weeks ago, if I remember correctly.
What is this game? Apparently there's a featured game on the Steam list, and it's called Panty Party.
Oh my god, it's the shooter with panties.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
I'm bringing it up on stream.
Hold up. Hold up. I gotta
Panty
see
Party,
this.
right? Yes.
Panty
Okay, so I've
Party,
seen this
This
game.
looks familiar.
This isn't new. I don't know if I'm able to show this on Twitch. Anyways, I won't show a video. You play as panties with guns and you shoot other panties.
Oh no, the evil panties have come.
Yeah, that's the game. Is there anything new on Steam? What's on the new release? We're out of topics. Try to look at some tech news. I wish I would have kept up with tech this week. I really didn't. Anything else going on? I'm just on Ars Technica now. Could try some other sites.
I'm gonna leave the lobby because I don't want to play any more League. I'll keep on talking now.
Okay.
Fine.
We'll win an ARAM now.
Yeah, we will.
I'm joking.
We won't have bots or feeders. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Terrible cough.
I might want to get that checked out.
Yeah. I think it's a case of feeders on my team.
I don't
sorry,
see
man.
anything really interesting that's like our audience interesting.
Yeah, there's the only other thing I could think of is no, I can't even think of anything else because we pretty
Small
much
group
covered.
of iOS devs formed the Developers Union to request App Store changes. This is a long freaking article.
On your guys' end, I don't even have the app. Does it do that no matter what?
Wait, what?
I don't have the League of Legends app. Why does it say that I'm on mobile on your stream?
Frick if I know. It always says you're on mobile.
Huh. 'Cause I did
Literally
get my
anytime I
account
play. I'm gonna re-roll.
Yeah. I've gotten my
Do you
account
want
stolen
him?
once, so I wonder if that's still on someone's phone.
You want Tarek?
I mean, it's better than playing Nocturne.
I could play Nocturne.
I'm taking Arcane Comet because I'm a jerk.
Side note, build attack speed on him.
Okay. Why?
Because when every time you attack somebody after you use a skill, you get mana back.
Okay. Oh, I just realized I still have Steam up in the background.
How unfortunate.
Any interesting new games coming out? So apparently, the Apple's App Store currently allows for free trials, subscription services, but not other types of apps. So I guess people want it to either be for other. I guess they want it to be for other games. Yeah. So I guess they want it in other games. I don't know. I'm not actually reading the entire article. That's not very interesting either. Developers want changes in the App Store. That's not news, but like they're doing something about it, which is nice. So they have over 1,000 supporters.
Nice.
Which isn't enough to change Apple's minds.
Yeah.
I hate the mobile app store. I tried covering mobile games for a while. I still haven't done my video on Honkai Impact, but it's a good game. There are good games on mobile, but they all have ridiculous microtransactions, and they're all screwed over by either stamina system or ads.
Microtransactions.
That
right?
rhythm game that I liked. This is something I found out that they do on mobile games a while back, and I think I mentioned it in the Broken Chatbox once, but may as well rant about it because it really pisses me off. One thing that mobile games have started doing is that, yes, they have ads and things like that, right? So there was these games that would come out and they would have optional ads, and you're like, all right, cool. So you get the initial new player experience where they just offload you with a bunch of the premium currency and give you a bunch of free shit just to make you feel special, because of course you can't get that anywhere else in life anymore. So, they get you hooked, right? And then they start forcing mandatory ads. After 4 or 7 days, mobile games will start showing these ads that weren't there before. So after you're hooked, they'll just start showing you ads all of a sudden. I found out Candy Crush does this. Every game by King does this. All the popular games do it. Clash of Clans, I don't know if it does it, but all the ripoffs do. So what they'll do is they'll have...
Clash of Clans doesn't do it.
So, yeah, I don't think they do, because they make enough money as it is. But
yeah, Clash of Clans. I used to play that a lot.
you did, before you played Monster Super League and then ditched that as well.
Hey, man.
But like they'll get you hooked with their initial player experience, and then they'll start displaying the ads that make them more money. And they're like, hey, by the way, you can buy a microtransaction to get another 7 days without ads. And you're like, wait a second. I wasn't getting ads to begin with. What is this bollocks? That really pisses me off. Because it's not disclosing that the game has ads, and it says it on the store page. It's just, you think, oh, hey, they're just the optional ads you can click on and get free shit, right? No, they start forcing mandatory ads. So I installed an ad blocker on my phone that works on apps.
Oh, how awesome.
So screw you if you end up using that mechanic. I understand that you need to make money, but don't do it in such a manipulative way that I'm going to turn on the ad blocker and screw you over of all your money, because I ain't going to spend a dime on your game if you're doing that. But so I installed that, and it's been heaven ever since.
Did you need root for that to work, or no?
Nope. It's called Blockda, and it's an open source project. And essentially what it does is it sets up a VPN that blocks things, sort of like a normal browser ad blocker. And it works on pretty much everything. So
does it work on YouTube?
That I don't know, because I don't use YouTube on my phone. So I couldn't tell you.
On my phone. But I also have YouTube Red, so I don't have that problem.
It doesn't work on posted ads. So things like Twitter or Instagram, it doesn't work with. So I don't know if it'll work with YouTube or not. Because all it does is it blocks a URL, but it does not block things like, links or et cetera, et cetera. So it won't actually block like a built-in ad, which Twitter uses a built-in API that's part of the actual Twitter algorithm and how you actually view other people's tweets to actually, set up their ads. And so it doesn't block Twitter ads. Same thing with Instagram, is they put it into their API. So if they blocked the API, it would just block Twitter altogether, which doesn't work. But aside from that, yeah, it works on apps like a charm. It blocks Google ads as well, which a lot of ad blockers don't do, even with root. So yeah, I was going to root my phone, but I'm like, I don't want to screw up my phone because I can't afford to buy a new one at the moment because I have a bunch of other stuff I need to buy. So I decided not to do that and not risk my phone, because apparently the S7 has had some troubles with rooting, especially recently with the newer updates, and I just updated my phone.
A lot of Samsung phones have a lot of problems
with rooting.
With rooting, especially with their security system, Knox. You do one thing wrong, you trip Knox, you void your warranty, and you break your phone.
Pretty much.
That sounds terrible. You probably shouldn't do that.
Do it if you have a second phone. Because screw it, why not?
Yeah, of course, why not? Yeah, at that point,
but if you only got one phone, the back of my freaking phone is still cracked, by the way. It's saddening. I talked about that on like the first Broken Chatbox that we ever did.
The first broken phone box.
Yeah, it was terrible, talking about the Broken Chatbox. Yeah, it was at my old job over a year and a half ago. Freaking dropped it because they're like, you need to be here at 6 a.m. And I'm like, frick you. And then I got fired. Literally that same day. So, great day. My boss was a bitch.
Oh, yummy.
But yeah, now I work at a job that's actually decent. Although they do have me working more hours, which is why there haven't been videos recently. So if you're following my channel and wondering, where's all the videos? Sorry, my day job took priority. So that's where I've been. Because I went from working 3 days to working 5 again. And that's a lot of free time I just lost. Which is a little unfortunate. But I'm getting more money, which means I can buy games. So I can actually cover new games.
More
Well, that's
reviews.
getting me so excited. Now we just need new games to actually come out and be interesting. Because there ain't much coming out. I don't know. Is there any games that you guys are really excited for besides the ones that we've talked about?
At the moment, nothing has necessarily piqued my interest. That's kind of sad, honestly.
One thing has piqued my interest. I don't play the game, but I heard that Rage 2 might be coming out.
I still haven't played Rage 1, and I keep forgetting it exists until I see it on sale for $4, and I don't buy it.
Well, from what I heard, you're not missing out on much.
Yeah, supposedly it was alright. Talking about B-class games, that was a AAA game that ended up becoming a B-class game, but apparently the world was cool, and it had some interesting ideas. It just wasn't particularly long, and the story was kind of botched in a lot of ways. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see where that goes. I'm wondering if they're actually going to put in, like, if it's going to be another, like, Rage 1 scenario to where it gets the same amount of budget and the same sort of care. Because it was a game that was built with passion, so it did have some care to it, but it didn't have the budget to be a full AAA experience. But I'm curious if they'll actually go in and do like what they did with Dishonored, to where they're like, you know what, we're going to throw this game more money, and then they actually make it like a larger series or something, because that would be cool. Rage has an interesting world to where it's like post-apocalyptic and stuff, and while that theme sounds like it's been overplayed, it really hasn't. And I really love them. I love post-apocalyptic games. The game I'm working on is a post-apocalyptic game, essentially. It's not really, but I don't know. I like that theme. So I would be really interested in seeing where it goes. But we don't really have any info on it, do we? Have they announced anything about it?
I can look up some stuff real quick.
Go for it.
But you're not doing anything anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're not playing League with us.
They have an official trailer, and it is listed on their website. Let me read off from their website.
Maybe I will bring it up live on the show. Just fun. Not really.
What is Rage 2? Dive headfirst in a dystopian world devoid of society, law, and order. Rage 2 brings together two studio powerhouses, Avalanche Studios, masters of open-world insanity, and id Software, the gods of the first-person shooter.
So it was just developed by id Software last time. So it does seem like they're at least putting on two developers, but that could also be split workload. I don't really necessarily know.
Yeah.
I really think
nice,
because it's Bethesda, isn't it?
One game that I'm really excited about that I've completely like spaced off for so long, but I want to see it so bad is Beyond Good and Evil 2.
I'm scared.
Enlighten me.
I am really scared.
What is that game? I've never heard.
It is a game we've been waiting for since my childhood.
The game you've been waiting for.
Okay, well...
Did you ever play Beyond Good and Evil 1?
Evil 2,
No,
I gotta
I've never
start
played
with...
it.
Oh my god, Evan, we are playing that. We are gonna fucking play that.
After this stream, we're gonna force you to sit down and play that.
It is incredible.
I will loan you my Steam library just so you can play it.
Okay, so to give a little bit of background onto like Beyond Good and Evil, do you remember back on the PS2 and the GameCube to where they tried cinematic games and they really didn't do well with it? Like they did terrible with it? This was the first cinematic game that did it well. And it not only was a good cinematic game, but it also had a really interesting world, really interesting characters, and like an actual like game. Like it was actually a good game. And so it was ran by, or is it produced, or I can't remember exactly what his title was, but Michael Ansel or whatever, the guy who's also behind Beyond Good and Evil 2, of course, and the Rayman games. He was...
Oh, I definitely did those Rayman games.
Yeah, so he was the head of that project, and so it had a lot of creativity into it. But the problem with it is the fact that they wanted to do so much with it that they really never ended up going through with it. And so what ended up happening was the game was hugely cut down from what they wanted to do. You said build attack speed, right? Yes. And so the second game is going to be all that they ever imagined. And the reason I'm scared for it is because it's going to be an open world game with procedural elements, which the first game was very carefully crafted with carefully crafted puzzles, story elements, etc., etc. So it was a good game in general, and I'm really scared that they're gonna screw that over just because they want it to be an open world game. Because they wanted the first game to be open world. They wanted the first game to be this big, expansive universe, and they had space exploration. It was limited, but they had it. I just used my ult, and then I used a hourglass.
Stop.
I am alive. I was alive. But yeah, so they wanted it to be that, and they had some elements of it, and it was really cool. But it was cool because it was, you know, one aspect of the game, not all of it. So I don't know. I'm scared for it. The trailer they released, a lot of people were like, "Oh, they're trying to be edgy." It was a monkey, and he was using a bunch of curse words, and he was kind of hipping around, kind of like, you know, the '90s attitude sort of stuff, which I love. I think it's awesome.
I think the trailer was cute and quirky. I liked it.
Yeah, I grew up in the 90s, and so that's the type of attitudes I grew up with in that style of content. So I thought it was great, but some people were worried about it. It's like, oh, they're trying to be edgy, and they're trying to be, you know, cool to kids and stuff, which, trust me, kids aren't into that these days. That's what, you know, almost 30 people like me are. But yeah, like, I don't know. I'm scared for it. I don't know if it's going to be a good game. I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't know. I just don't want them to ruin it. Beyond Good and Evil 1, though, will never change. It was great, but it ended on a cliffhanger. So...
Ended on a cliffhanger. Okay.
And we're never going to get the answers.
Yeah, this one's supposed to be...
and it's a prequel.
I think it's supposed to be a prequel, yeah.
Yep,
I've never really read into it, but by the looks of the trailer, it definitely looks like it's a prequel.
It is a prequel. So you play as the squad that's with Jade's mother or whatever, which is confirmed now.
Hey, spoilers.
So they literally have that on their promo page, which has been up for like a year. They announced it at last E3. So yeah, it was just one trailer, and that was basically it. And they were like, here's some details on their promo page afterwards. And all the news sites were like trying to report on it, but there's nothing to report. I loved Beyond Good and Evil 1, though. I thought it was really good, and I would have loved a follow-up to it. But Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been in development hell for years, and so it's been changed hands. Originally, you're going to play as Jade. Originally, it was going to be a follow-up, and then they ended up changing up what the game was, which I hope was for the better. It could not be.
Weren't they working with Microsoft Studios for the one that they announced at, like, 2008's E3?
I don't know.
If I remember correctly, I remember seeing Microsoft logo and all that at the beginning.
They did work with Microsoft Studio to actually make the PC port of the game. So it wouldn't surprise me because that relationship was already there. But I don't actually know for that one specifically.
The PC port of the game. Now that is a pure example of a bad port. Oh my god.
Apparently the GOG version works because they've hacked it.
Yeah.
I cannot recommend buying it on Uplay. The Uplay version doesn't work on modern hardware.
I got it to work, but I had to do so many fixes, and I had to use like DX wins and DirectX hacks and all that.
Really? You should let me know how, because I have not gotten it to work.
Everyone is
going in. We're doing
it.
We're doing it, Reddit. I'm dead. I'm so dead. Reddit, I'm dead.
Yeah, for a while there, I kind of just gave up and played the GameCube version, but then I finally got it to work. It actually looks really good on PC.
Yeah.
But it was definitely built for Vista in mind, and we all know how buggy.
It requires a specific sound card to use half of its sound features.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was made with one specific set of hardware in mind. I can't run it on my machine because I have an NVIDIA graphics card that doesn't have the AMD sync or whatever. Mass Effect has the same exact problem. It's annoying.
Oh, then yeah, because I'm running on a bit of harder hardware with like a GTX 970, which has a lot of the legacy features that the 10 series does not.
I was running a GTX 660 and I couldn't run it, so I think it's just specific cards have problems with it. I don't really know, because that has all of the old features on it, because that was built with XP in mind.
Yeah, but after this, I can definitely help you get that set up.
I would love that. If I have the time, I'll figure it out. Anything else interesting before we end the show?
Unless you want to talk about anime, I think that's about it.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about it next week. We did have this giant blank space. You could have brought up anime. Freaking weird.
I mean, I didn't know you wanted to talk about anime.
I don't really care. We were sitting here literally without anything to talk about. And you're like, I've got anime. I'm like, we're at the end of the show. And like, Breaking my
one thing
dreams.
we could talk about to end it off at maybe Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, the game I'm not excited for because it won't be on PC because the developers are idiots, and if it is, it's going to be crowded with a bunch of microtransactions.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
well, that sounds terrible.
It's not confirmed yet, but we know that that's what Rockstar has in mind. Well, more specifically, Take-Two or whatever.
Yeah, Take-Two, honestly, they need to find a different publishing company because Take-Two has done some very vicious stuff to the modding community as of late.
Rockstar did some nice handling when they ended up attacking mods. And so they're like, hey, and they can kind of strong arm because they're a big studio with a lot of money at stake. And so they don't exactly want to lose them. But at the same time, they're also a studio that doesn't want to push their luck too far. So I have a feeling they're going to have to cut corners on one of these things, and it's probably going to be the fact that microtransactions will probably be in their next game. One of the things I liked about Red Dead Redemption 1 was actually the multiplayer aspect. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. One, game was fantastic. One of the best open world games.
That was really fun.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic story and everything. So, like, it was just a really well-made game.
Yeah,
but
that's like Rockstar's thing is nowadays is that they have a really good story, but then they have it almost equally. I wouldn't say equally, because it's almost different from the base game, the way that multiplayer plays out. But in Red Dead Redemption 1, I would just play that for days. That was so fun.
It was.
And even though like GTA 5 had just came out and all these other games, Red Dead Redemption 2, not 2, but 1, even today, I booted up a PS3 like a couple of days ago just to see if the online community is still alive. It's still alive to this day. There's still people sitting around playing Red Dead Redemption.
That doesn't surprise me, actually. It's the
such a
only
fun
game
game.
like it with that multiplayer component
Yeah.
that I can think of. There might be another one somewhere, and someone's going to be like, hey, by the way, there's this game. And I'm like, cool. But
Tell me,
yeah,
tell
on
me a
console.
game that will allow you to lasso other players and put them in front of train tracks.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Last
Like, let's be real here. That's the real reason to play multiplayer.
I would do that. I would do that. I think I did remember doing that to a few players myself back in Red Dead Redemption. And getting them hit by a train.
Weren't you able to
Killing
get
them.
an achievement for doing that to a hooker or whatever?
Yeah.
Or whatever they're calling that
Yes. Yes.
The achievements that were shame.
Escorts.
Yes, escorts.
We'll just call them escorts.
The official name is escorts. Whether you are male or female, it is an escort.
We'll be proper with that.
Yep. Or I could just call them sluts.
Or
Anyways,
whores, prostitutes.
anyways, thank you guys so much for joining in the Broken Chatbox. If you ended up missing the early parts of the show, you can always end up checking out the archive. So we're going to go ahead and do our closing bits. I'm obviously the host. You can check me out on the YouTubes and stuff like that. I think my links are on Twitch. I'm not sure. I need to redo all my branding on Twitch. But I will be doing a dev stream tomorrow and the day afters and stuff. So if you want to learn more about my game and stuff like that I'm developing, you can end up checking out my dev streams. Aside from that, I don't really have too much going on. I'll have a review of Neptunia probably tomorrow or the day after. Anyone else want to plug anything? Watch Evan on Twitch.
Yeah, watch me on Twitch. I'll most likely be streaming Fortnite on the PvE, not the PvP battle royale, the save the world aspect. So if you guys are interested in how it looks and you are unsure of the early access and everything, you can always check me out on that. I always give good feedback to anybody who wants to watch me stream and everything.
And you are trying to improve your streaming and stuff like that too, so.
I am trying to improve my streaming, so more viewers are always welcome.
Bark, you have anything you plug yet?
Nothing particularly, nope.
This is Spark, the nobody that just sits here and does nothing.
Yep. Doesn't
pretty
play
much.
all the matches of League with us. I wanted to end the stream on some winning a match, but this has been a very long ARAM. So,
Well, I mean, we're close.
do you really think we're
really.
close enough that I'm going to be extending this podcast for another half an hour?
No, but maybe.
No.
There's a chance. Look, that crazy epic battle you're having right now.
I know, we're losing.
Oh,
We are straight up going to lose. I am.
Yep.
Yep. Anyways, you can also check out Spark on the Broken Chatbox if you want to join the Broken Chatbox, or maybe you want to join the podcast sometime. You can check us out. Hopefully there's a link below. There might not be, but you can check out literally any of my links on the screen, and then you'll find a Broken Chatbox link somewhere.
Hypothetical link.
Yeah, somewhere in the voids of space.
Way up
If
high.
you're on the archive, it's in the description. But yeah, you can end up joining in our gaming Discord, which is called the Broken Chatbox. Yeah, so we end up talking about video games and stuff like that. And of course, the stuff for my game development is there. But you can also end up going in there and chatting with us whenever we're in chat. Or if you have questions about anything, go in there. Anyways, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. And is this game going to end?
Nope.
Nope.
Because I'm going to
All right,
save it.
I'm ending it here. Bye!
Bye.
Lie.